Welcome to the weekly instalment of Pom and Fazz Football Show Live. You've had us twice in a week, as you always do, and joined as always by the Mad Hammer himself, Big Fazz. How you doing?
Very good, mate. Very good. I love this time of the week when we get to talk the round ball. And I posted on my Facebook before. I'm saying, why have listened to BT butchering the easiest job in the world in commentating when you can have the footy on mute and listen to us talk about the round ball, which is exactly what I've done. I've got the footy on there. I'm just in the background there, but I'm here to talk about the round ball. So anyone who's thinking, oh, it's finals footy, chuck it on mute, put us on. You can still watch the game and listen to us talk some real stuff, and that's the round ball.
Mate, I'm with you. And Paula giving you a bit of love there.
Oh, yeah. But I've cut 10 years off my life, so.
The gorgeous Lana's in chat. Good evening, Michael. We're coming to your Arsenal doing that. Tim's doing what you're saying. Look at that. You see, look, everyone's loving it. You see,
look, jeez. What did I look like before? A busted arsehole. But anyway.
Mate, never ask the chat questions you don't want the answers to. That is the first
Love
thing.
It. Thanks, guys.
We've got 2 games of each side to cover. And as Michael says, we're going to go in reverse ladder order and cover all teams' fixtures. So let's go and have a look at that.
Do you want to feel how it feels?
So bottom side, Leicester, they had some tough 2 games, really. They had Chelsea and then they had the mighty United this morning. Rodgers has already started throwing the toys out of the pram after the United game. The Chelsea game was very similar to the Arsenal game. They're just not creating anything, are they? And United made it look. That was I thought today was the easiest 1-0 you'll see. Like that, I felt that scoreline flattered Leicester, if anything.
Yeah, look, they're bottom of the table for a reason. Leicester, they just, like I said, they're just not creating anything. I look at them, 1 draw of 5 games, but the fact they're -5 goal difference, that just shows they're literally just losing games. So it's not doomsday for them, in my opinion, because I always look at goal difference and say generally the bottom 3 teams will have the worst goal difference. It's not doomsday for them because they're not bleeding goals, but they're just not creating. And that United game this morning, I mean, I won't say the word boring because obviously United fans would have loved it, but seriously, once Sancho kicked that goal, it was game over because Leicester were looking for the draw. They just didn't create anything, and it was actually the exact same the game before against Leicester. Against Chelsea. When Chelsea were 2-0 up, yes, Leicester got a goal for Harvey Barnes, but they don't look like they're winning. They don't look like they want to win. I'm very concerned by them. Alarm bells going off, but yeah, we'll get to them obviously a bit later because I think they do come up at some point, but they are a concern. Is it doomsday yet? 5 games in without a win? Maybe, but I still look at that goal difference and I think if they can just find something in attack, whether it's Dakar or whoever they want to roll with, is Vardy. He's probably coming towards the end. Nacho's probably not hitting the ground where he should be. I'd be playing Patson Daka personally. Just try and do something to score a goal.
I think the age is catching up. The sands of time are undefeated, aren't they, on Vardy? And
yeah,
I think he has lost a yard of pace. I mean, obviously, it doesn't get much better for Leicester fans as well because they lost Fofana. They got good value for Fofana, though. I can't believe he's gone for 75 million. But,
great value.
But they brought Fazz in. You would have expected them to be a bit more active, wouldn't you? Especially they sold Fofana with time, and it was the longest run saga ever. So they must have known he was going. Bit of a worry they haven't brought in.
That Fofana sale really frustrates me. If I was a Leicester fan, I'd be pissed because you knew he was going to go. The worst kept secret in the world. He was going to go. He didn't want to play. He refused to train, refused to play. So you wait till the end to sell him. Just get rid of him and then bring in. Like I do understand the logic for clubs saying, oh, we're going to stand firm. We're going to just. But at the end of the day, with players like that, you just got to get rid of them. You just say, get out of our club, bring in 2 or 3 players for the 70 million you got in, and reset that way. Now, what they say, oh, we've got a budget for January. Well, if you're still bottom of the table by January, it ain't going to mean nothing. So I'm really frustrated and disappointed by that saga that went on with Fofana. And if I was a Leicester fan, I'd be pretty pissed.
Mate, they look like they're in a world of trouble. But then we go on to a team that you'll like to talk about because you played Villa. Villa, they obviously went down 1-0 to Fazz's side, 2-1 on Thursday, early hours. It was a good game. That they showed a lot more in the Arsenal game than they did versus you, but we did predict that Arsenal would have way too much class for them, and they did. And it's a weird one as well because their transfer period hasn't been too good. They've brought in Dendoncker, probably the greatest name ever from Wolves, and Bednarek from Southampton. Weird ones for me to bring in, but they are Premiership experience. But a lot of work to do for Gerrard, and you'd say now that the sackings are happening, he must be worried.
Gerrard's in big trouble. He's in big trouble. That the West Ham game, and obviously I'm happy because West Ham got the result, but it was one of the worst games of football I think I've ever seen in my life. Like, it was horrendous from start to finish. West Ham were able to get a freak goal from Fornals, but Villa created nothing. They were just horrible. They did much better against Arsenal, but again, for naught, just getting rolled at the end. They're in big trouble. In fact, I mean, it's going to sound silly because they are on more points and everything, but I actually worry about them a little bit more than I do Leicester. I really do. I worry about them a little bit more than I do Leicester. I think, I don't want to say it because we all love Stevie G, but gee whiz, he's in a bit of trouble.
Mate, it was a poo game as well. I did watch it. I was in the text with Fazz, and he was very happy when they scored. Garbage.
But outside of that, don't repeat some of the words I said in that text, by the way, in that messages.
But it's a weird one. I agree with you. When I look at Villa and I look at the signings, they've got Douglas Luiz. It's a weird. I just look at that squad and I feel like they've put a lot of eggs in the Coutinho basket for a start.
Yeah.
And Coutinho looks like a shadow, very like most players that go to Barcelona after a good couple of years, and it kind of ruins them. It cabbages them, and he looks cabbaged. I was watching him, and that role, particularly just off the front man, watching Rangers under Gerrard, is integral. Is integral to what they do. And he ain't it. And I think Gerrard's got some big calls to make, particularly at the team selection time. I'd be dropping Coutinho.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, he's just been a bit rubbish. I think I said at the start of the season in our season preview, I was looking forward to seeing him play. Gee whiz, I couldn't have been more wrong there. To answer Mitch's question earlier about, mate, I'm a true professional. As soon as this finishes, I'll be laying into them all night. So
they are from the horse's mouth. And then we've got Wolves. Tell you what, one of the more entertaining 1-0s they had with Newcastle. They did draw 0-0 with Bournemouth. Again, though, these are another side. Ruben Neves took his goal very well, and it was a last-minute draw from Alan Saint-Maximin, who again did the goods. But Wolves are just that team. When I watch them at the moment, I just don't feel anything. They're like Brisbane. They're just so vanilla. They are so vanilla. You look at that team, though. The team's good. You just don't quite get what's going on with them.
Wolves, I find them the hardest team to place and hardest team to really pick about where I want them to finish, where I expect them to finish, what they're going to do. I think your comparison to the way I describe Brisbane is apt, absolutely apt and brilliant, because I think with Wolves, I think you could just grab a pundit off the street and say, name me the 20 Premier League teams. And I reckon a lot of people get to 19 and say, well, who's that 20th? I can't think of that 20th. Who is it? Wolves. They're actually a nothing team. Like, they're just easily forgotten about. Like, and this is no disrespect to them, but they are. They're just like that. Oh, that's right. Wolves played. Oh, okay. And they're missing something. And it's been going on for the last season or so. They're just missing something. I don't know what it is. I find them really hard to place. I don't think they'll go down. Like, it's very early on in the season. I think they're very lucky because there's a few shitter teams in them, but they're not impressive. I mean, they're looking at a 13th to 16th finish.
And you'd be expecting as well that they've had a lot of ins and outs, Wolves, that you'd expecting that they're looking to go the next level, aren't they? They're looking to break. When you've been in the Premier League this long, now at this stage, you want to be in the top 10, don't you? And they've had a host of outs. Like, they've really got rid of a lot of riffraff on that side. But when I look and you've got like Boubacar Traore coming in, I don't look at their ins and go, oh, they're a top 10 side. I look at their ins and think survival.
Yeah, and I think they're another team, which I said during the preview. What do you want to be? What do you want to do? When are you taking that next step? Whether it was them and Palace and all that, are you just happy to be that will just survive every season? If that's the case, good, well done, you're doing that. But when are you going to take the next step? When are you going to do, and I know, I'm sorry, but when are you going to do a West Ham and say, no, we want to take the next step. We want to be a top, the best of the rest. That fighting for European football, whether it's Conference or Europa. We want to be, I think Crystal Palace have proven they want to do that. We want to be the Brightons of the world. At the moment, they're just, we're happy to be here.
A lot of work to do for Portugal reserves, as I like to call them.
But it's like when you get invited to your cousin's wedding. You're happy to be there. You'll drink the free piss and you'll have a good time. Are you gonna? Yeah. Is it gonna be memorable? Probably not. But you're just happy to be there. That's what they are. They're the invite to the cousin's wedding.
Mate, do you know what I mean? Yeah, and you probably had a crush on all the friends when you were a kid because she was 2 years older than you.
Yeah, correct. Exactly right.
Exactly like the cousin. And another team that really is baffling me is 1-1 specialists. It could be Everton or it could be Anthony Gordon FC. He's in sensational form, and they probably had the best window in this last couple of weeks because they somehow kept Anthony Gordon. And Everton, they are probably the most unattractive draws you'll see as well.
I hate watching Everton games. I'm dead set. They are horrible to watch. In a bizarre twist of fate and a bizarre turn of events, the two golden boys of our generation in Stevie G and Lampard are actually the two managers of the teams who I think are absolute dog shit. And I just find that almost poetic in a sense. They're in a world of hurt, Everton. I look at their team, and I know they're sitting out of the bottom three now. I know there's plenty of water to go under the bridge. But I actually look at the team, I think, other than Bournemouth, they're the worst squad in the league. I just can't. There's not one other than, like you said, Gordon, Damari Gray, maybe. Nothing excites me about that team. I'm like, okay, cool. When you're rolling with Tarkowski, we said it last week, when you're rolling with Tarkowski and Cody as your centre-backs, to me, that screams survival. We just want to survive. We just want to... Everton is a too big a club to just be in survival mode, in my opinion.
It's weird because you only think it's only, about a decade ago that they were like breaking the top four. They'd started to get a foothold. Do you know what I mean? In and around that four, and looked like they were the type of team that could really maybe do a bit of damage, to sides. Do you know what I mean? And it just looked like it was just a couple of signings away. But that being said, I did enjoy their last couple of days of the window. I think Neil Maupay is what they need, a striker with Premiership experience. They brought Gruyere back, who I think he's been at Everton more than season ticket holder, to be fair. And I did enjoy James Garner. I thought this was a great little deal for both parties. United have put a buyback clause in there, which I think is shrewd business because I think Garner is a very good footballer. I think that helps Anthony Gordon out because I think he'll enjoy playing off more pay. And I think they've done. I actually think when I saw their window, I was thinking if I was a Villa fan like the legend who watches this show, Peter Hayward, if you're in chat, g'day, I was thinking I would have killed for their last 3 days because I think they got very solid footballers that if they do fail and go down, are probably going to stay as well and get you back up.
Yeah. I really rate Maupay, so I think their signings have been good, but just I don't know. I feel like they are probably they're too big of a club to be doing what they're doing at the moment, and I worry about them. I think they'll survive, maybe, but gee whiz, scary
I
for
think
them.
Mike's nailed it as well. They've spent as well in the last 5 years. They've spent, but what have they got to show for it? I mean, I caught the Bezeski touch game, and Dele Alli turned into Dele Alli at Wimbledon, and I couldn't stop laughing. But we'll come on to Haaland in a minute. We're at Bournemouth now, and Bournemouth, they had a world of hurt. This has been a horrible week for them. Long time since I've seen a 9-0. We'd have to go back to United beating Ipswich off the top of my head that I can remember. And they made Liverpool look very, very good. And then they somehow managed to draw like all teams do when they sack a manager, buck the trend. And they had the 0-0 with Wolves that we've talked about. Bournemouth, again, transfer window-wise, without a manager, which is why I thought it was very, and we'll come on to that later, very weird that they sacked a manager in the middle of a window with a day to go. They brought Jack Stevens in, who's neither here or there. Like I say, always be wary of a guy with 2 first names. But it was a weird one, wasn't it? That they look like they are down.
Yeah, Bournemouth. I mean, that game against Liverpool was fucking diabolical, if to say the least. And look, got a draw against Wolves, which, you know, neither here nor there. We'll see how that goes. To me, I think that says more about Wolves than it does Bournemouth. I feel like this is going to be a common theme. I do feel like this is going to be a common theme as the weeks go on. We're going to be talking about them. I just, what are they? 1 win and a draw. I can't be too harsh because it's the same as West Ham, but 1 win and a draw. But that goal difference, -14. I know 9 of them came in 1 game, so it's a bit stiff. But to me, I always look at goal. Goal difference is obviously like the percentage in footy. I always look at goal difference, and if you're bleeding goals, you're never going to survive. Simple as that.
So it's a weird one. It's a weird one. We come to another side that probably are in the same boat, but probably fit your argument because they do show something, and that's Forest. They went down 2-0 to Spurs. Penalty saved again by Dean Henderson. 6-0 this week as well to City. But as the legend that is Jimmy says, how fucking good is Haaland, though? And I'm kind of confident with Forest when I watch them because I do think they're very hard to break down. And I think Tottenham are ruthlessly efficient under Conte. And I think City are in another league at the moment. Do you know what I mean? If Haaland keeps up like this, and I watched a video earlier where some guy was going mental with his wife with how many goals she'd scored and trying to get it through to her head. But by the rate of the EPL, he is halfway already after 4 games to being rated as above average as a forward in goals. Like he's beaten a lot of people. That's crazy.
Well, I think I saw a stat. He's the first player to kick 9 in 5 or whatever it is, and he's just look. Haaland, he is literally. I don't think I've seen a player like him. I made that comment. I look at him and I don't think I've seen a player like him. He is going to be the Ronaldo and Messi of this generation. I truly believe that. I truly believe that this generation is looking at what we saw Ronaldo do when he did it in the Premier League. He is next level above. Obviously, we're not here to talk about at this point about him, but Forest. Look, I go a bit the other way. I think they learned a valuable lesson. They learned a real valuable lesson against City, and that's don't get too big for your boots. You know, you've been promoted. They played the same formation, same game plan against City is what they did against West Ham. And I'm all for sticking to your process and saying this is how we want to play. But I'm sorry, when you come up against Manchester City, you have to minimise the hurt, minimise the bleeding. You know, they were never going to win the game. I get that, but 6-0 could be the difference between getting relegated or not. You see Bournemouth get done 9-0. Forest needs to sit and say we need to get 2-0 against City. That should be our goal. I know that's a real negative way to look at it, but we should be looking at 2-0. Let's set up defensively. Let's set up on a counter attack. Let's do it this way. Trying to play your game against City, they learned a very valuable lesson, and I hope their manager does accept that. They've got Bournemouth coming up, so hopefully, you know, for them, they can get back on it. But I didn't like the way that they thought, let's just take City to their game, because you're never going to.
Hey, I don't mind it, to be honest. I think they were always going to lose. And I think maybe in Cooper's defence, probably a good way to test your system and let these boys know this is how we want to play. And this is how far away we are from being able to cement our way on top sides. They actually got a good lesson in how far away they are.
Yeah, and look, I get that, and I acknowledge that. But I think when it's your first year in the Premier League, your number one priority is to survive. It's all well and good to try and learn that skill, but if you're going to get relegated, then what's the point? You need to survive. Look at Sam Allardyce. I mean, he's a perfect example of that. Just get your points to survive, and then start tinkering. But survival in the Premier League, and unless you follow the sport, no one really gets it. Survival, it's life or death. Like, you ask Nottingham fans, you Leeds fans, you know, you get relegated, you might never be seen again. There's a generation of fans who don't even know who Nottingham Forest are. A generation. They can't afford to be fucking around this. They need to survive, because if they go down again, good night, nurse. There'll be another Birmingham, there'll be another Bolton, there'll be another, you know, so on and so on.
Mate, I agree. I've got a sneaky feeling they'll survive. I mean, they've been very active in the transfer window, haven't they? We'll come on to that later. But I mean, I'm half surprised we're both here doing the show and we haven't got a contract with them, to be honest.
Mate, ridiculous.
Absolutely balmy. But then we come on to West Ham. Probably a good string of results for you guys. 1-0 versus Villa. It wasn't the most exciting game, but you got the job done. And then probably the shock of the round. We saw the return of the counter-attack football flair that Moyes is proud enough. And you snuck the draw with Spurs. And you could argue chances to win that late.
I will argue. I'm disappointed with the draw. I'm disappointed with the draw. West Ham outplayed Tottenham in that second half. West Ham should have won it. It's fine. It'll take the point. West Ham finally got their season back on track. I did just a bit of math in my head about where I thought. I think at this point in time, West Ham are 3 points behind where I expected them to be. That loss against Forest is a killer, but I didn't expect us to beat or draw. I expected Tottenham to beat us, so you get that draw. That's a point I didn't expect to get. With what Tim's saying here, possibly he's talking got lucky against Villa. We played horrendously against Villa. If Pommy ever brings up the messages I was sending him during that game, I think I had half the squad sacked and so on. We were horrendous against Villa. Got the result, but I thought we were brilliant against Tottenham, and I'm really positive about the game coming up against Chelsea. I think West Ham they've got their mojo back. Big name signing coming on just gives everyone that lift. Really, really good in my opinion. Probably the second, maybe even the best transfer window in the league almost. I think they've done a really good job. Very positive for what they've got coming up. But there's no doubt West Ham outplayed Tottenham. And I think Tottenham's back defence might come under pressure a little bit as the weeks go on, in my opinion. So,
mate, Lucas Paqueta, what a get. That kid, he knows how to bowl. Tell you, I'm a big fan. He is a very, very good footballer. And Michael's giving you a rap here. I agree. I think you're a chance against Chelsea.
I hope so. And Pommy, do you want to tell everyone what I sent you about what I'd do if we signed Paqueta, or is that too R-rated for a show? Put it this way, it was more than involving shaving the mo. Put it that way.
Let's put it this way: you'd be able to swim very fast. Let's put it this way. You know what I mean? Rare West Ham could be Melbourne Football Club in the making.
Hope so. Love that.
Mate, you never know. As well, you might be able to go to Buller. Do you know what I mean? You might be able to go to Buller. And then we come on to another London side, Palace. Very good game against City. Very, very good game. Very entertaining. They ran them close. Obviously, that's what's scary about City. We'll come on to them, but they've got another gear. And then, like most sides, when they run a top two side close, really let themselves down against Brentford. They had that game won, and they just stopped playing, didn't they?
Bizarre team, Palace. I really like what they're doing. I think they've had a real tough start to the season as far as fixtures go. Where they have Arsenal the first, then Liverpool got the result over Villa, then obviously played City. So they've played Liverpool, Arsenal, City in their first 5. I mean, that's pretty stiff going. I think they're going to come good. I think that once the fixtures start being more tasty for them, they'll start coming good. I like the way they play. I really like Vieira. I love Zaha. I think they what are they? 1 and 2 draws. I think they could be a surprise packet this season. I'm looking at them in the top 8.
Mate, I think they've gone well. I think they're a very well drilled side. They play a very good brand of football that I think can cause you trouble. When you've got players like Willie Zaha as well, man, you're always in with a chance.
Yeah.
I think they've signed well as well. I don't mind their signings. I think they complement their squad. I think Vieira's starting to put a footprint on it, and it's a Premier League standard squad. And you said surprise packet, the other one as well, Newcastle, 1-1 with Wolves. And if it wasn't for Klopp time, they would have snuck a draw at Anfield.
I love that call from you, because I literally said to my uncle today, he's a Liverpool supporter, I said, geez, Fergie time just at Anfield. Who would have thought? Great call, Klopp time. I mean, I was watching that game, and to be honest, pretty much from the 80th minute, I thought this is only going to go one way. Look, Newcastle did everything they could to hold on, but they just the 8th minute of 5 minutes of injury time. Fair enough. They're Newcastle. I don't know. I still can't pick them. I mean, I like the way they play. I like what they do, St. Maximum, all that. But drawing against Wolves, good draw against City, obviously. They needed to nick that point against Liverpool. I think that's what the real kick in the guts is. They nicked that point against Liverpool, and all of a sudden, you start thinking, okay, here we go. I don't know. I just don't know. Isak's a good signing. I've said it for ages. They're not going to go far with Callum Wilson as their striker. Rate him, really like him, but Isak, he needs to take them to the next level. I think they'll be fine. But are they going to take that jump that everyone, because of the oil money, are they going to take that next jump? I don't know. Maybe next season.
I think their operation will be breaking into the top 10 this year. They finished 11th last year, and I think Howe did a wonderful job to get them there. I think they must be looking at trying to get into the single figures, because then it's a lot easier to sell that to the players that can take you into the top 4 when you say, look, we're 2-3 wins away. Do you know what I mean? And we think you're the 2-3 wins away guy. And
I think the one really pleasing thing for me with Newcastle, and I know people can say what they want with the oil money and all that, whatever. But what I think is very pleasing is they've clearly got a plan in place. And every single person, even Newcastle fans thought, we've got the money, we're going to sign Mbappe, we're going to sign him, we're going to just throw money left, right, and center. But they haven't done that. And I think that's a real credit to the people running the football club, the directors, whoever it is, because they're saying, we've got this plan. And I agree with what you're saying. This season, break into the top 10. Next season, break into the top 6, get Europa League. Season after, top 4, and so on. Have that 5-year plan. And Michael's just said it there. To have that 3 to 5 year plan, I'm really impressed with how they're running it, because the easy thing to say would be, hey, we've got all the money, let's just splash it, let's just throw. But no, you've got Eddie Howe, build this team, and I really, really rate what they're doing. Really rate what they're doing. Oh, fuck.
Well done, Lenjet. Mate, that's
Yeah.
solid banter, that. And you know what? It was a cheap shot, but we'll prove it. I like it. No, I agree. I agree with you and Michael. I think the model that Chelsea and City did shows you that it's absolutely ridiculous. Do you know what I mean? That because they were just pot shotting 50, 60 million on a Brazilian at Shakhtar Donetsk on a whim. I think what they're doing is they are making the right signings, and they're doing it slowly but surely, and I think that'll hold them over.
Well, Ray said there that the Sid's 5-year plan, what is it? Don't die. Well, I think that's Everton's 5-year plan at the moment. What is it? Don't get relegated. Great call.
And then we come on to Brentford, who, again, they seem to be a team that just refuses to get beat at the moment. They are really wily. Again, 2 lots of draws, which complement their 1 win and the other draw that they had prior to this. They're a weird side, aren't they, Brentford, when you look at them? Because you don't know how it works, but it somehow does.
Yeah, look, I'll take my pundit's cap off and put my supporter cap on. I fucking hate Brentford because I just don't know what they're about. Like, this is frustrating. What 1-1 to Palace, 1-1 here. Just like I don't know. They're just a weird team. I don't know how it works. I rate Ivan, Tony, but now my pundit's hat back on. I love the way they're going about it. It would have been a very, very easy and predictable thing to say. Brentford will go the likes of Sheffield and fall away completely because they had a really great, probably overachieved last season and they could fall away completely. But it doesn't look like that's going to happen. They're hard to beat. They've got, I wouldn't say they've got stars on their lines, but they've got workers on their lines. Hard to break down. I really rate Ivan Toney, and I really rate Keane Lewis Potter too. So
Brentford. Michael's right. They give me a lot of. I'm old enough to remember the 92 Euros, and they do have a very 92 Euros Danish type mentality that it's hard to score against them. And he's spot on there. They've got a big Danish core there. They are very, very tough to beat. North Melbourne-ish. I reckon North Melbourne will be Brentford next year. Just impossible to beat. Just really hard to break down. They'll be very regimented. And tell you what, I feel like they're just a signing away. They give me 90s Everton vibes about them. That they're going to be one of them sides that are going to be probably not good enough to be in the 4, but good enough to get into that 8 eventually and be really hard until teams start to buy them. I reckon they're going to be one of them teams where this time next year, teams are going to look at De Silva, are going to come knocking and saying, here's 60 million, give us De Silva. And however they work their transfer from that will be interesting.
Yeah, I look at them like a more, so you say Everton, I look at them like a modern day Leicester. And I'm not saying they're going to win the league by any stretch. So don't mix my words. What I'm saying is getting into the Premier League and staying in the Premier League. But then not just staying in there, pushing. And I think you look at the likes of Leicester, Brighton, their teams have come, they got into the Premier League, they've stayed in the Premier League, and then they pushed, and Leicester obviously did something magical. I can see Brentford, if they haven't already, overtaking the likes of Wolves, who's saying, well, they're just happy to be there, to say, no, we're not just happy to be here. We want to be something, like a Southampton, those types of teams. I can see Brentford being like that, taking that next step. I love them. They frustrate the hell out of me as a supporter, as a tipster, as someone who's trying to, tip games and all that. And whenever West Ham play Brentford, I'm like, Brentford, we'll get them. But they don't. You just don't, because they haven't quite earned maybe that respect yet that they deserve. They just haven't. I don't know. Maybe it's because they're called the Bumblebees. I don't know. But I don't know. There's something about them that they just haven't quite earned it. But it's building. It's building rapidly. And what I love about them as well, don't end up like Sheffield. Don't end up like Sheffield. Consolidate, and push. And I love it.
Mate, I think they're doing the right thing as well. And I really enjoyed the Miguel Damsgaard signing. I think he's a phenomenal winger from Sampdoria. He's looked pretty tasty in his 2 appearances. I think once he gets his feel, I think he could be the point of difference they're looking for. then we come on to Chelsea. Now, I want to start this one a bit differently to what we've done the other ones, because I was watching the transfer day and I was like, they got Fofana in, and I was like, well, thank God we don't have to hear about that guy anymore, because it was doing my head in. And then they got Mbangiyang, and I'm like, okay, finally they've got the striker. And then they were like, oh, there's these last-minute deals. And I couldn't believe they signed another defensive midfielder in Denis Zakaria. And he's a jet, the Swiss-born. I remember seeing him at Borussia Mönchengladbach. I didn't watch him much at Juventus, but I was like, what is Tuchel doing? And I agree here. Tuchel is sacked. And if I was Chelsea, I'd be getting on the blower to Conte and saying, I am dreadfully sorry, because I watched their games this week against Southampton. They didn't even set up to win that. They were set. It felt like when that goal went in, Tuchel's arrogance took over, and he was like, "Oh, it's all right. We'll just grind this one out." And it was the same when I watched the Leicester game as well. Do you know what I mean? They got that 2-0 up, and they almost just closed shop and were like, "That's all right. We'll see this out."
Bizarre. They're a bizarre team. I want to be careful what I say, because I do believe in universal karma, where if I slag them off too much, because West Ham play them tomorrow, so I don't want to slag them off too much and then they come out and beat us 4-0. Having said that, they're a fucking piss take, that football club. They're mate, they're a nothing team at the moment. I don't know what they're playing at. I don't know what their thoughts is. Aubameyang, yeah, fantastic. What's he gonna do? I do not know what they're playing at. They kept Libbojrjr, which I thought they could have loaned him out. I don't know. 2-1 to Southampton away. And I know people will snip this and play it back to me tomorrow should Chelsea beat West Ham, which they very well could. But there's something about them. And I'm with you. We talk about Bournemouth sacking their manager early, which we'll get to that. But how on earth can Tuchel survive? I just don't think he can. You look at where they're sitting now, 5 games in, and they're so far off the pace. And you look at Arsenal, City, Tottenham, even United, who've finally got their, pulled their thumbs out and started going with it. They're so far off those teams, so far. And we're talking about a team, and I don't like looking like an idiot. I hate looking like an idiot. And I fucking said that this Chelsea team could be top 3, but they're not. So you know what, Tuchel? Piss off, because you're actually an embarrassment.
They're in a lot of trouble, and the team that caused them trouble, Southampton, United bringing back the 1-0s. Bruno beat them 1-0. And then, obviously, like we say, this Chelsea game. I was a fan. I know you weren't of these, but yeah. I am a fan of what Southampton are building. Very tough to break down. They're going about their business quietly. I think their transfer window was very good. I love the Maitland-Niles acquisition. I think that's stellar. I think that's a stellar acquisition, because I think he's the guy, one of them guys that's probably not good enough for Arsenal, but could do something in the Premier League. And again, they take the game to them, and that's what I like about them. They take the game to the opposition.
Look, a man can only admit when he was wrong. A man can only put his hand up. I said some pretty harsh words about Southampton in our Premier League preview, which is unlike me. I don't say harsh words against. I got them wrong. I'll be honest. I got them wrong. I didn't rate their squad. I thought losing a few players was going to really hurt them. But belief is a powerful thing. They've got a wonderful manager. They've got wonderful belief, and I got it wrong. And I'm happy to admit that. I'll be the first person to jump on here and say, should they turn to shit, I'll be happy to jump on here. But no, they're brilliant. I really enjoy watching them play. To answer that, I think 27.
He's got a few, hasn't he? He's got good spot then, Jet, mate. Good spot. And then we come on to a team that you've admitted you're wrong. My turn. I slated Fulham. I said that they were doomed. Absolutely cooked. Absolutely
that's not that bad.
I also slated Mitrovic and said that he should be nowhere near a Premier League side, and he's on his 5th fucking man of the match.
I say this every week. I am going to go back. In fact, if he scores this weekend, I will go back and I will snip at that bit where you ended his career.
Because you know when he scored again, and my mate's got him in the fantasy, and he keeps texting me his score and going, "Yeah, you're right, Pom, championship striker, sick of it." But I tell you what, I'll give it. And you know what? Their transfer window, Kazawa, absolute jet fullback,
Huge.
Willian, I absolutely froth it. Premier League experience. He knows his onions. I love the Daniel James acquisition. I am shocked Leeds have got rid of him. And they brought in Vinicius, not the good one from Real Madrid, from Barca and from Benfica. I don't mind that either. I also don't mean that. But...
Yeah, I'm also the same. I'll put my hand up. I had them at 20th, and they look a mile ahead of the bottom three teams. One thing I will say, and I'll continue to say this about Fulham, early on, again, keep your feet. Don't get it too ahead of yourselves, and just keep doing what they're doing. A 2-1 win against Brighton. That's a monster win, because I think Brighton are a phenomenal outfit, and that's a monster win. They're really starting to. If they can get a positive result against Tottenham this weekend, forget survival. They'll be looking at a top half finish.
Mate, they made it hard for Arsenal as well. It was a great test for Arsenal.
It really was.
It really was. And they made it hard for Liverpool. I do remember doing this first one with you and saying, all teams that get promoted show something week one. You watch Liverpool next week and you watch Fulham, and Liverpool went shit and Fulham fucking won. So, I mean, there it is. You know, Jota's with us as well. Look, do you know what I mean? He gave it to Mitrovic. I can't even bring him into my fantasy side. I'm not even doing it. I refuse to do it. I'll live by my sword. But we briefly touched on them then. Leeds United, they obviously lost to Brighton. Probably will be disappointed at home that they needed a Sinstella equaliser. Captain America there. He's going all right, though, isn't he? He's getting the results.
Leeds. I've looked at their fixtures, and I'll just quickly go through them. So 2-1 win against Wolves, great. All right. 2-2 against Southampton, not so good. 3-0 against Chelsea, phenomenal. Losing 1-0 to Brighton, no good. 1-0 to Everton. I feel like they're dropping points against teams that they need to be picking points up against. Because at some point for Leeds, the fixtures are going to get really tough. They haven't played United, City, Arsenal yet. When those Liverpool, who did I say? Liverpool as well. So when those fixtures come, it's going to get tricky for them. You need to be picking up these points. The draw against Everton at home, to me, I'll put a little asterisk on that, because that is that's going to be a horrible result come the end of the season. They're not going to get relegated or anything, but they want to be pushing for this top half, top 8 type. And that drawing against Everton at home is not going to get you there. I like Leeds. I like what they do. But again, and I mean, they're not keeping clean sheets. You've got to keep clean sheets. Yes, they did against Chelsea, but you've got to keep clean sheets.
I get a feeling that when they play a top side like a Liverpool or a City, it could be a bloodbath because they play positive. And Pete asks about his beloved Liverpool. Liverpool 9-0 with Bournemouth. That was impressive. Klopp time got them the dub versus Newcastle.
Love that.
Liverpool, it's a weird one, isn't it? Because I can't really count the Bournemouth game.
No.
Because I'm pretty sure you and me and Chat could have played Bournemouth and got 3. But
we could have put a team together. Yeah.
I do think, looking at their fixtures now, there is 2 Stonewall 3-pointers, Everton and Wolves, and probably Chelsea as well. I think that's their first real test. That if I was them, I would be just, there's something missing in there, and I don't think it's as simple as Mane out.
Has the Klopp magic worn off? I don't know. I'm just throwing questions out there. Liverpool are another one of those teams. Look, they've woken up about time. The 9-0 and then 2 wins in a row. They've clearly woken up, which means it's not too late. obviously they'll get a result against Everton, get a result against Wolves. It's not too late. There is something missing. I think Arsenal and City, and even to an extent Tottenham, are that far ahead of Liverpool at the moment. Not saying it can't change, but there's just something there. This is a good point. That is a great point. We have heard this about Klopp. He does his time when it runs out pretty quickly.
He was woeful in his last year at Borussia Dortmund.
Yeah, so we'll just. I don't want to go into too much depth with them. I know if there's Liverpool supporters, they kind of want us to talk about that 9-0 result or whatever. But to me, they're a watch this space. They're a real. I've got a little, a little asterisk there to just keep an eye on Liverpool, because 9-0 is 9-0. The 2-1, I don't think they were overly that impressive against Newcastle. So I want to see how they play. Everton, let's give it a go. But yeah, they're a real watch this space for me. I don't think they're going to compete for the title, put it that way.
Mane is killing it at Bayern, and Bruno, I share your sentiments. Fuck them. But I mean, I've got to say Nunes is good, but then we come on to a real side, United. 1-0 Southampton, 1-0 Leicester.
Oh, wow.
Like we said in the pre-season, said Sancho was one to watch, and Sancho turning into prime Sancho before our eyes. And obviously United had a very good window as well. We brought in a backup keeper. If you watched the show a couple of weeks ago, they signed pretty much everyone we wanted. So we got Casemiro in. Obviously, we got the legend, though, is Anthony. And I am looking forward to Anthony. Mark my words, big call from Pom. Once Anthony's there now, lock in top 4. Lock it in. United he's a different gravy. You know what? People are getting excited about Haaland. You wait till you see that little gem cut inside and tee someone up.
Look, brilliant segue, because talk about deciding to wake up and pull your finger out. United's last 3 games have been polar opposite to what they produced in their first 2, which is fine. Look, I put my hand up about Leicester and said I was wrong. Whatever. Now's my chance to just bask in my own brilliance, because I did sit here and say in the preview I predicted. I think I said United was second. Did I say second or third? I can't remember what I said.
I think it was third.
Yeah, well, third. Well, mate, I'll buy you a beer because I'm just that good. Their first 2 weeks were absolute mulligans. They were never going to continue that piss poor. I tipped them to beat Liverpool on this show, and you laughed at me, and everyone laughed at me, but they got the result. And again, look, 1-0, probably not the best performance against Leicester, but as you said, it was the most comfortable 1-0 you've seen. Mate, they're kicking into gear at the right time. What a game. Oh, I'll be up for it. United Arsenal, what a game to come up. I mean, we'll talk about that, but this is it, mate. Yeah, this is it. It's going to be huge. New signings, a manager who's got cojones the size of absolute bloody boulders. He's got balls bigger than the bloke on the ark who called the behind last night. This Ten Hag, mate, jeez, wouldn't want to walk past him in a dark alleyway. Put it that way.
Mate, he's making the tough calls. He's changed the back line. Ronaldo's nowhere to be seen. He's getting what he wants. Long may it continue, because, like you say, we look tough to beat. And that's the start. You've got to be tough to beat. And obviously, changes. We play Arsenal. That is going to be the big one. That is going to be the big one.
Yep.
That is it. So then we come to Brighton. Obviously, the 1-0 versus Leeds. Disappointing loss to probably top 4 hopes Fulham after we slated them at the start of the year. Brighton just going through a little bit of a teething issue, aren't they? I mean, good start to the season. I wouldn't be worried if I were them, because I thought the Fulham game was just a bit of an anomaly. But it gets a bit tougher week in, week out in this league. And it's going to be interesting what Brighton do, isn't it?
You look up professional outfit in the dictionary, and there's a picture of Brighton and Graham Potter. I love the way he goes about it. I've said it many times before. He is the next one. He is the next cab off the rank, in my opinion, as far as a top 6 team looking for a new manager. I love the way he goes about it. I love that they sell, but they still produce. I think that's a sign of a great club. Very Leicester-like, very Southampton-like when they were kind of more of that mid to top half. They can lose their best players, but they still produce week in, week out. And I think, look, the loss against Fulham, it's pretty stiff. But as you said, they got games. Look, they got Leicester coming up, Bournemouth coming up. I mean, they got some winnable games in the next 2 or 3 games to really consolidate their start. And I love him. I love everything about him. And like I said, Potter, he's the next big thing. If I'm a club right now, actually, I'm sitting there right now, and he's not going to leave Brighton for a Bournemouth or anything like that. But if I'm a top half club, whether it's Leeds, West Ham, who else? Leeds, West Ham, Chelsea, possibly. I mean, what a step that would be. I'd be looking and say, is the man that we've got our man? And if the answer is not unequivocally, yes, he is, 100%. If the answer is, oh, maybe, I'd be getting in Potter's ear right this moment. Maybe not to take over next week or anything, but just say, hey, Graham, we've got you in our thoughts. Plant that seed early. This is what's going to happen, because he is a wonderful manager. And he's not going to leave Brighton now for any of these lower clubs. So they've missed the boat. His next step now is possibly that mini step of West Ham, a West Ham step. Tottenham, I consider West Ham and Tottenham to be a similar level. So he's probably that step. But I'm thinking Chelsea as well, man. I'm thinking dead set. Chelsea be sitting there. Do they have the balls? Do Chelsea have the balls to employ Potter?
Mate, if I was Chelsea, 100%, bro.
Yeah.
Like, why not? Like, honestly, why not? Like, because he's a great manager, plays positive football.
I'll tell you
it's
why.
Aggressive.
I'll tell you why. Because he's not sexy. That's what it is. He's not that sexy name. He's not. If his name was Guillaume Pochettino, he'd be in there tomorrow. It's true, mate. It's true. Have you ever heard that Sam Allardyce used to say it all the time? If his name was Allardycinho, he'd be managing Real Madrid. It's absolute fact. It's because he's not sexy. That's the reason. Chelsea, do they have the balls to employ a manager who's not the sexy big name? I think he's brilliant.
Mate, I'm with you. And I think that it's only a matter of time, I think, before someone does it.
Michael makes a great point there. Only thing is different to handle expensive players. And you're right. You're 100% right. But you're not going to know unless you actually give it a go. That's all. Yeah. You're not going to know how he does it. Yeah.
Mate, it'd be interesting to see what he does. I mean, I don't mind their window as well. They brought in the Airshaw Perlo and Billy Gilmore. Absolute superstar, that. So, very good footballer. I'm looking forward to seeing what he brings, because I think he was I don't think he really took to where he was prior. He was he's obviously been at Chelsea, but he was at Norwich, wasn't he, on loan last year? Didn't quite work out for him. I think he suits Brighton's ball playing, pings a pass. So I'm looking forward to that. And then we come on to Spurs, and they are a very ball-using side. Conte, 1-0 with your boys. Another Conte performance against Forest. Just do enough that you need to do. And they're ticking along nicely, aren't they, Spurs? Just, I think, going about their business very quietly. I love what they've brought in as well. I think that they haven't gone extravagant. They've really added depth to the side, which I think is one of them under-forgotten things. Everyone always looks for superstars, but it's a long season, and genuinely depth wins you it.
Look, again, take my West Ham hat off here, but I love what Tottenham are doing. I love what they're producing. Other than obviously Arsenal, which we'll get to, I think Tottenham have been my biggest impressive, most impressive to me. I thought they were a bit disappointing against West Ham in a big derby. Obviously, West Ham do get up for that game. I know that I'm not a dumb West Ham fan to not admit that. Yeah, we do. That is, we do play that as our cup final. I get it. They didn't impress me at all against West Ham, but they got the draw, and that's what they did. They weren't impressive, but they got the draw. That's what good teams do. West Ham should have won that game. Tottenham got the draw. They've impressed me. 3 undefeated. 3 wins, 2 draws, goal difference of 6. They're getting their job done. They're just getting it done, and I think that's all you can ask.
Mate, couldn't agree more. And I think that they're one to watch. And I know Michael will hate them being an Arsenal fan, but tell you what, it's great for the Premier League to see them back at the top. Back at the top, because you want this Arsenal Spurs rivalry to actually mean something. Not
When is that game? When is that game? Seriously,
it's not far off, isn't it? Let's have a
oh,
look.
that is there it is. 1st of October.
Oh,
Fuck me! What a game! If they still go, that is. I'm so looking, and I'm a West Ham fan. I hate both these teams, but that game, I'm frothing over that. Something shocking.
Mate, it'll be a gripping game. And then we go to the top two.
Oof.
And for me, so far ahead of the others here.
Yeah.
So far ahead.
Yeah.
And City, 4-2 against Palace. 6-0 against Forest. Unbelievable. I mean, honestly, Arsenal are doing sensational as well, but the firepower City have to give up 3-0 win leads and absolutely sturge home. I have never seen anyone as good. I would have to go back to R9, Fat Ronaldo, to see someone as deadly as Erling Haaland. And I've got to say, the big thing about Haaland for me, he's got the pace of prime Owen, the finishing of Shearer. He's got the strength of Van Nistelrooy. It's almost like they've built him in a laboratory.
He's a robot, mate. I'm telling you, man.
Absolute sensational.
I've seen enough 80s pop culture movies to know that this bloke is a cyborg, right? He's not human. I caught up with my uncle today, who I haven't seen for a while, and I said to him that Haaland, he's this generation's Messi and Ronaldo. It's as simple as that. He's like, well, he's not, because I'm telling you, man, this is a guy who we are going to remember for the rest of our lives. I don't want to put pressure on him, but I've never seen something like him.
Sensational.
It's scary. It's
absolute
scary.
Joy to watch. I mean, honestly, when I was...
It's a great point, because Alvarez is a fucking superstar as well, but you know what?
Mate, the fact that Alvarez is their backup striker is filth.
It's filthy.
But honestly, Haaland, something else. And you know what? I don't mind what they brought in as well in the transfer window. I think Akanji, I love a bit of Borussia Dortmund, and Akanji's very solid centre-back, and again, adds that little bit of depth to them. It's going to be interesting. Maybe there is an argument that money, but I mean, they only spent let that sink in, 64 million for Haaland.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Fuck me.
And I think that's the thing, you know. I look at West Ham. West Ham spent 170, I think it was 170, 180 million, and no one's batted an eyelid. They're like, oh yeah, whatever. If that had been City or Newcastle, like, oh, this oil money, but they didn't spend much at all. So,
mate,
brilliant.
I agree. I agree. And, you know, I can't wait till City play these guys, Arsenal. I am very impressed with Arsenal. I am loving what Arteta's doing. And it's no surprise, because he is a Rangers boy, is Arteta. So we taught him everything he knows. And
look, to me,
wow.
I'd hate to go out on a limb here and mention the team sitting at the top, but to me, they've been the most impressive. The team that's impressed me and surprised me the most this season. Obviously, City have been the most impressive, but as far as surprises, what I expected and impressive, it's Arsenal. And again, that's going out on a limb. They're sitting on the top, but they're I love what they've built. And this is not just a this season thing. This is not just a look what they're doing. This has been built since Arteta's got there. And I think Arteta should be the poster boy for any of these teams trying to build a squad, trying to build success, whether it's Ten Hag, whoever it is, saying it doesn't just happen. You know, Eddie Howe at Newcastle, it doesn't happen like that. You've got to take the time. 3 transfer windows, 4, 3 summer transfer windows. So, 5 transfer windows altogether, you could January. and that's what it takes. And I love what Arsenal do, and don't sell yourself short, Michael. I think they're every bit of chance against City. And look, the depth will be an issue, and we'll see how that comes about it. But I think that's improved. It's certainly improved from what it was last season. Their depth. I can't fault them. I honestly can't fault them.
Mate, I'm with you, and I think the wonderful thing about Arsenal and about Arteta is Arteta has played his way. I remember speaking to Paolo last year, and he was a little bit worried at times about Arsenal. I was like, the wonderful thing about Arteta is he's playing his way. He knows he hasn't got the players, but he's ploughing the time into the right people, playing his system. He's playing with purpose, and give him a couple of windows to work it out. And they've backed him, and they're bearing fruit. And I'll tell you what, this time next year, they'll be even stronger when they finish second or third in the league, Champions League cemented. You go out again. Do you know what I mean? And add.
I can't fault them. They're brilliant.
An absolute brilliant window as well. A window that needs to be respected because they went out and got players that they wanted early. They didn't fuck about.
Yeah,
got it in.
And we spoke about that. You know, Jesus, Zinchenko, Premier League experience, got it done early. I'm thinking, geez, I feel like Zinchenko's been there forever because that's how early they got the transfer done. Brilliant. I cannot fault a single thing they've done. I am jealous of them being a West Ham fan, but they're super impressive.
Mate, I'm looking forward to playing your team, Michael, as always. Looking forward to it. Well, let's see who Fazz has got questions of this week.
It doesn't hurt me. Do you want to feel how it feels? Do you want to know?
So who caught your eye, Fazz?
Yes, so Nottingham Forest, and for a different reason, probably a bit of a left field reason than people might think. A little number just crossed my desk and caught my eye. 21 signings they've made this transfer window. 21. Now, this is not the way you go about it. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. And a lot of Nottingham Forest people say, oh, we've got these players and we'll bring them all in. 21 signings? You are trying to rebuild a football club whilst you're trying to survive in the Premier League. You can't do that. That's way too many. It's just going to cause absolute mayhem. And, you know, and they'll say things like, we need time to gel, get these players in. You do not have time to gel. I'm sorry, Forest. You have to survive this season. You have to survive this season. If you don't, you'll never be heard of again. 21 signings. Lingard, piss take, right? He's been horrendous. He actually got dropped. I'm not unhappy about that. Kuate, who they signed from Palace, ex-West Ham as well, he's probably almost finished. They're making 21 signings is great to say, hey, look at all the money we've spent, look at all the signings we've made, but I think they've made the wrong signings. I think they've made too many signings. And as a promoted team, your best bet, have what you've got, build around what you've got, kind of like what Fulham did, and back your system in, because this manager, you know, he's got this system to play. 21 players to come into your team and just learn your system like that, it doesn't happen. So they're a big watch this space over the next month or so.
Mate, I agree with you. And I think, like, you look and you go back to the start of the season. Do you know what I mean? Neco Williams and Awoniyi, they have really performed. Dean Henderson has really, really performed as well. But then you look at the guys they've brought in after that, like Emmanuel Dennis. Did he set Watford alight? Do you know what I mean? Koyate, like you said, was he really a superstar? Gibbs White was the one that blagged my head. But I do like the Renan Lodi one. Very top level player. But it does feel like they've just bought anything that has said, oh, I don't mind playing for Forest.
It's bizarre. It is bizarre because, you know, you make 21 signings, you're bound to get a couple of good ones, aren't you? But 20, like, I couldn't believe it. And, you know, yeah, it just seems to be it is very much like a FIFA football manager approach of let's just make 1 million offers and see, oh, he signed, I'll take him. Yeah, bizarre.
Right, it's going to be a weird one. It's going to be a weird one of, I suppose it's one of their windows as well, that you'll kind of judge it in January, won't you?
Yeah, well, if if they're fighting relegation come January and the manager's expecting money to buy players in January, well, if I'm the owners, I'm saying, fuck no, mate. We just bought you 20 players. What more do you want? So he's got to do it. It blows my mind. 20 players. I've never seen something like that before.
Do you know what I mean? I mean, it's estimated. Just looking to answer your question, it's estimated this window, because a lot of them were undisclosed, but according to reports, they are roughly looking at total market value, according to FIFA's transfer market calculator, is 160 million euros.
Far out. How can you do that as a newly promoted team? I don't get it. And look, and again, I'm not. You need to spend to keep up, and I get it with the big boys. But 160 million on these types of players, if they're fighting relegation, which I think they will be come January, then how can the manager look these owners in the eye and say, "Give me more money, give me more players"? That is crazy.
Mate, it's going to be a weird one, isn't it? Let's be honest. It's going to be a weird one. Wait and see.
Yeah.
Well, let's have a look who I've got under the pump.
It doesn't hurt me. Do you want to feel how it feels? Do you want to know?
I've gone with Bournemouth, and I know people might say, well, Pom, they drew. And I'm like, okay, yeah, they did. They drew. I'll give them that. And a very good draw as it was. But I think when you're sacking a coach, Scott Parker, so soon in, with such an abysmal, and I don't use the A word a lot, but let's be honest, their window is abysmal.
Shocking.
Like when Marcus Tavernier is your big summer signing, and he's not even the best player in his family. I mean, like his brother is a lot fucking better. I just look at it and think, what do they expect? Like, and how it's come out is it sounds like there's been a bit of a standoff with, and the owners decided to use this as an excuse to turf him out. I genuinely question what Bournemouth are about, because I don't think there's many managers that are going to come in that are going to be like, oh, great, Bournemouth. I mean, if I were them, I'd be hoping Harry Redknapp, because he's got a holiday home in Bournemouth, decides to say, look, I'll come in and I'll keep you up.
Bizarre. I think the 9-0 it's a horrible result. But in their first 5 games, what they play? They played, was it Arsenal? What did we say? In their first 5 games, they played Liverpool, Arsenal, City. Liverpool, Arsenal, City. They beat Villa 2-0. Let's not remember, they won their first game of the season. So then they won their first game, and then the next 3 they literally had City, Arsenal,
Liverpool.
and Liverpool. That's 1, 2, and 3. And yes, I know they conceded 4 and then 3, then 9. I get that. The 9's the killer. But I don't get why they sacked him. I don't get it. They get it. Their next run of fixtures were the Wolves, which they got a draw, which I would have backed Scott Parker to get that draw. Forest, which is 50-50. Bournemouth at home. I mean, their fixtures coming up were all friendly. I just don't get it, unless, as you said, there might have been a falling out with the owners. But to me, it was a premature sacking, and fuck, they're as good as gone, mate.
I think the weirdest one as well is sacking him with 4 days left of the window.
Yeah, what player's going to want to go there?
And you look at the guys that they're linked with: Sean Dice, Chris Wilder, Jonathan Woodgate, quality, Gary O'Neill. Do you know what I mean? they're not. I mean, the rumours are, according to Sky Sports, John Terry has been interviewed for the job. Like, Jesus, is it the England World Cup squad from 2002?
Well, I'll tell you something for nothing. If you're a manager, and this is why it's very damning for Scott Parker, because now he's been sacked by 2 teams in the Premier League. If you're a manager like Sean Dyche, you're not going to Bournemouth. Your career is actually better off you not going to Bournemouth. because he's better off waiting for a better job, because there will be other jobs. There'll be a team like Aston Villa. In fact, perfect example, Aston Villa, who'll sack Gerrard, and Sean Dyche can just roll right in there and say, hey, I've got claret and blue clothes, man. Like I told Burnley, I don't even need new clothing. Like I got the colours. So he can just roll in there. But you would be a madman to go and manage Bournemouth.
I think it's worrying, and I think when I saw that sacking, and I agree with Bruno, he probably was sacked on the back of that 9-0, but I think that's mental, because what did you expect? Do you know what I mean? Like, that side that went out there was champion. I think it's a miracle Parker got them out of the championship.
Yeah,
Side.
Yeah. I think Parker's a good manager. I really do. I would like to see, and maybe it's a bit of a soft spot for him for obvious reasons, but I'd love to see him in charge of a team who's got money, who's going to make signings, who's, dare I say it, I'd love to see him in charge of a West Ham with the squad we've got, because he'd have the respect of the players. But he clearly, with the game style he has, he needs certain players, and he just didn't get it at Bournemouth.
Mate, it's going to be an interesting one.
It won't be the last we see of him, that's for sure.
Mate, I think you'll see Scott Parker back, but like I say, I just think they're in a world of hurt at the moment. A world of hurt.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Well, let's see what's excited Fazz this week.
It doesn't hurt me. Do you want to feel how it feels? Do you want to know?
Who are you throwing under the bus?
Leicester City. Like ding, 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 alarm bells. They are cooked. Absolutely cooked, Leicester City. I really rate their manager. I love Brendan Rodgers. I think I really like the cut of his jib. But I think it's finally caught up with Leicester. We would often talk about Leicester City as being that team who could turn coal into diamonds. They buy a cheap player for not much, sell him for 40 million in 3 seasons' time. They were brilliant at that. I think that's caught up to him. I'm of the massive belief that if you want to survive in this league, and not just survive, you want to succeed in this league, you can't be a selling club. And dare I say it, I'll use my club, West Ham, as the example. We've stopped being a selling club. We've stopped selling our best players, Declan Rice, Bowen, whoever. Leicester, Fofana, kicked up the sink, sold him. They keep selling their players time and time again. I think it's caught up to them, possibly out of money. We don't know the impact that the COVID and everything had for their owners. We don't know the impact, obviously, the death of their owner had. Very, very important that there's obviously a few things going on the back there. But I still put it down there. I think it's finally caught up to them. There's only so much now. The more football goes, the more years go on, more teams have big scouting networks. Very hard to find that diamond in the rough now, which Leicester built their reputation on finding that player that no one knew about, became a Premier League champion.
Mate,
and I don't think they can do that anymore.
And Rodgers has already said they're a weaker side. They've had a rubbish window.
Yeah, and as soon as the manager starts coming out and saying we've had a bad window, that's a direct, wherever you want to put it, swipe at the owners. And as soon as you start doing that, yeah.
Mate, I agree with Bruno. It's all Maguire's fault.
I like it. But so I think they're in big trouble. I think they're in massive, in a world of hurt, they are.
Mate, I couldn't agree more. I also think when you have a really good season as well, like they did, I look at Everton at this, when they made the 4, I think you've only got a year or two you can dine out on that to get good players in. And I think eventually your name gets tarnished. So I think Leicester had 2 seasons where everyone was like, oh, Champions League, I don't mind coming here and maybe I can get them back in. Do you know what I mean? But now,
and that's the thing. And again, I know I keep referring back to West Ham, obviously, it's only because I know them so well, but you see what West Ham done the last 2 seasons. Europa League, now Europa Cup. These are the seasons that West Ham need to sign these players. Paqueta ain't coming to West Ham if we're not playing European football. Simple as that, right? Regardless of which level it is, Champions League, Europa, or the Conference, you need to be playing one of those 3. So West Ham needed to have that really good window. I agree. Leicester missed the boat. Who in January, when they're sitting in the bottom 6, who are they going to be able to sign?
Mate, and I agree with Michael here. I think it's going to get worse. Tielemans going to go, and before you know it, that squad is broken up, and could be doomsday for Leicester.
Very well. Yeah.
Well, we'll see what positives Pom brings to the world.
It doesn't hurt me. Do you want to feel how it feels? Do you want to know?
Well, I've really enjoyed Wilfried Zaha. His form has been good. He missed the game a couple of weeks ago, but returned. Palace are going well, but I listened to him post-game against Brentford, and he was gutted. And listening to him question why they sat back, felt like they needed to press more. He sounded heartbroken. I watched that game and I thought, how has Zaha not gone to a top club? How?
That's a good point. That's a good one. I mean, he went to United for a bit there and then came back. I don't know. I can't answer that question, but he'll go down as a Crystal Palace legend, which I think is great. I love that. I love those types of stories. Yes, obviously he went to United for a little bit there, but he came back. I still remember watching Wilfried Zaha when he was in the Championship playing for Crystal Palace. In fact, funny, in Football Manager 2012, Football Manager, he was the first player I signed. Every save I did, he was the first player I signed. But he's a class act. Obviously, things haven't gone his way to get to a bigger club, but I don't mind that. I love these stories. You know, when there'll be people who'll say, "Oh, you remember Wilfried Zaha? He's going to be a name that Crystal Palace fans remember for the rest of their lives," and I think that's special. And sometimes I believe this with a lot of things, your legacy can be more important than the medals around your neck. I know a lot of people say, I want to play for trophies and all that, which is great. I agree, play for trophies. But being a club legend can be more important than winning trophies. And I'll look and I'll throw Mark Noble as an example again for West Ham. West Ham could win a trophy this season, right? I do, mate. I played Football Manager for many hours. But West Ham could win a trophy this season. Great. Medals.
Mate.
I'll remember Mark Noble more than the blokes who win the trophies this season. It's as simple as that. And Wilfried Zaha is that for Crystal Palace. And I think all these young players who are looking for these big moves, sit back and think, what's your legacy going to look like? Jack Grealish, Calvin Phillips, for example, they may win trophies. Excellent. But imagine how big and memorable Calvin Phillips would have been if he stayed at Leeds or Grealish at Villa. I don't know.
Mate, I agree with you, and I think he's going to be one of them people. I mean, going to 2012 Football Manager, the guy that I used to sign all the time, Saint Etienne legend, and now West Ham icon, Zuma, best centre-back in the game, if you actually bought him.
Wonder kid.
Mate, he absolutely used to kill it. But no, I agree with you, and I think Wilfried Zaha, excellent player. And I am loving what Palace are building as well. Real tough brand, and they're an exciting team to watch.
Yep, love it.
Well, let's look at the week ahead.
It doesn't hurt me. Do you want to feel how it feels? Do you want to know?
In just under 24 hours' time, Everton entertain Liverpool, and this is probably everyone's favourite fixtures, isn't it? It's one of the fixtures you look out for. Can Everton sneak a point, Fazz?
No. Not a chance. Not a chance. I'm not going to go as far as saying 9-0 Liverpool, but it's going to be a bloodbath. I'm going to say 6-0 with a sacking.
Mate, I think it's 4-0, and I reckon this could be the death throes for Lampard. I don't think they'll get rid of him after this game, but I think it will be a January. He's gone.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
So, no,
I agree.
Any Everton fans out there? Yeah, maybe watch something else.
Yeah.
Watch something else. And then we've got Brentford. They entertain Leeds, and I think this is
Tasty.
going to be a ripping game. And I think this could be where Brentford stop drawing and maybe
Yeah.
sneak the win.
This is tasty. This game. 2-1 Brentford. I've got. I don't trust Leeds' defense. I just don't trust their defense. 2-1.
I think 2-1 as well. Yeah, I think it's going to be a tight game, but I think Brentford just a bit too much. And this is the game everyone's going to be watching. Chelsea Hammers. Can your boys end to show? Because I reckon if he loses this, questions are going to have to be asked up top.
Yep. I've got 3-1 West Ham. 3-1 away. Yep. I think they'll get the job done. I loved what West Ham did against Tottenham in that second half. I think we've got our mojo back. Playing against a team where West Ham will get the opportunity to counter-attack against, that's our greatest strength. Paqueta will probably hopefully start on. Jared Bowen's got to get back into form. 3-1 West Ham. I'm feeling it.
Mate, I've got that as 1-0 you, but I do think West Ham will get the result. I think you'll get them in. And then we've got the Geordies entertain Palace, and this is two sides, different methods. One spends billions, one doesn't. But both going well at the moment.
Tasty again.
Who you backing here?
Oh. Far. I haven't. That's what a game. 2-2-all. I'm going to go 2-2.
I reckon this is going to be. I reckon it's 2-1 Palace. I reckon they'll get a bit of a reward. I've got a feeling Zaha's one of them players that if I was Newcastle, I would have had a big sniff at in the transfer window, because I think he's the type of guy that can take you with the budget into the next domains. And we've got some great games on at midnight. You've got Forest, Bournemouth. What a tie this is.
Yeah, again, there's some absolute juicy games. I've got this as the game where the Bournemouth owners will claim that they made the best decision ever to sack Scott Parker, despite the fact that it wouldn't have mattered. I'm tipping Bournemouth 2-1 here. I reckon they'll get the result away from home.
Really? I've got Forest winning this 2-0.
Yeah. Fair.
I like a bit of Dean Henderson action. And then we got the Spurs. They entertain pre-season city dwellers Fulham, who evidently now vying for a Champions League spot. How do you see this one going?
I think Fulham's grace will come to an abrupt end. I think Tottenham win this 3-0. I think Tottenham will be stung by how they played that second half against West Ham. I think Fulham up and about, they're like, going really well. They'll take it to Tottenham. And the worst thing you can do against Tottenham is take it to them. If anyone saw the goal they scored against West Ham, it was literally because West Ham were attacking. You can't attack against Tottenham. You'll get absolutely burnt. And I think Fulham will try and attack him, and I think Tottenham will get 3 on the counter.
Mate, I'm with you. I think Spurs way too much. I think this will be the end of Mitrovic. I think this will be the end of Fulham. I think Fulham will go back to being shit. I think this will be 3-0. Yeah, I think that's a fair assumption. And then we've got the Wolverhampton Wanderers, the Nothing Club, versus Fazz's favourite side, Southampton. How do you see this one going?
What was that? Look, I'm not going to be 0-0. Fuck 'em.
I was going to say, this has got, you know when you watch it on Sunday at midnight and you've got it on and you put it on the feature so you can get all the live scores. This is going to be the one where you're going to be like, you won't even care. You won't ask. You won't even log in to check the scores. You'll be like, who cares? And you know that both of these sides will score when it's really interesting in the feature game. So you pop it up on your screen and you're like, get it off, there's a corner. No one cares about Wolves. I reckon this will be 1-0 to Southampton. I reckon. I'm going to
dangerous for Wolves.
I'm going to back in Joe Aribo to bang one in for them.
That's dangerous. In fact, if Wolves lose this game, they're my early alarm bells for next week.
Well, we'll see. And then we've got Villa.
Oof.
And it doesn't get easier for Stevie G because he entertains free-flowing City.
Okay, so Stevie G. All right, Pom. What letter is the letter G in the alphabet? So if A is number 1, what number is G in the alphabet?
6.
A, B, C, D, E, F. It's 7.
Oh, is it? Oh,
It's
yeah,
gonna be.
sorry.
It's gonna be 7-0 City.
I'm going to say 6. Probably because that's where I think G is.
Yeah.
And then we got Brighton versus Leicester.
Oh, far out.
That's a clip and a half.
Yeah. That's not one of our finest moments. Brighton versus Leicester. I think the alarm bells are going to continue for Leicester. I can see Brighton getting this done 2-0.
Yeah, I think, like you said, professional outfit. I think they'll be too strong. Brighton 2-0 there. And then we finish United versus Arsenal. Probably one of the games of the round 10 years ago.
I still think it is probably one of the games of the round. I think this is going to be an all-timer. Absolute all-timer. I'm going to go 3-3.
Really? I've got this 2-1. The mighty United.
Yeah, I like it.
I reckon Sancho continues his form. Ten Hag gives the most laid-back press conference like he always does. And I think United will do it. But we will be back next week. Enjoy the final quarter of what looks like a ripping game. And thank you all for joining us. Much love.
Love it, guys. Thank you.